1 week season.
1 week season, fam, La Familia, welcome back. It is Monday, May 27th, Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day long weekend to all of you. Happy drafting. Hopefully you all are enjoying yourselves. And if you are drafting, finding some luck there. We are coming to you for Wake and Snake this Monday morning, recording a little late. So this will be posted a little later than usual. But we are going to hop right in pretty quick. I'm going to welcome Billy on. StatATL. Billy, how we doing today?
Happy Memorial Day to you, Mike. Doing great. How about you, my friend?
Terrific. Just going to go away for a couple days with the wife here. So, getting this done, getting my Tuesday session set. And yeah, we're going to be drafting on DraftKings today. Going to mix it up a little bit. Again, this is Wake and Snake, our Monday show. This is where we're going to draft a team. And most of the focus is going to be on, we used to do a Monday market report, talking about risers and fallers, talking about, recent news, injuries, that sort of thing. But figured this year we thought this would be a little bit more format to do it while we do a draft and kind of go through the players. So if you're interested in this, more of the deep dive into the strategy aspects, I encourage you guys to check out 1 week season Bestball Plus. All the Bestball Plus subscribers. Of course, you'll get more of your strategy stuff right on the site there. This is available on YouTube and Twitter for anyone to watch. So check us out. Learn a little bit about what's going on around the league and see us draft some teams here. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I got the second pick. Feels like I always get the first or second pick. I'm just going to go ahead and not mix things up. I'm going to go ahead and take Lamb. The Cowboys are an interesting team. I kind of was surprised with the draft that they didn't add a running back, just bringing Zeke and Dowdle back. What are your thoughts on Lamb? You think he can repeat as wide receiver one, given the way they threw the ball last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I certainly think so. I think the news that I saw this week around the Cowboys was more around Jalen Tolbert. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think and just kind of beat reporters saying that they thought that he might see more snaps, has got a chance to see a lot more of the field as the wide receiver 3. But yeah, I mean, I like Lamb. I mean, based on what he did the second half of last year, you got to think there's a possibility for wide receiver 1 overall upside yet again this year.
Right. Kind of as we go through it, the other one that I have some interesting, I guess that I'm interested on is Justin Jefferson with the Vikings. Him coming off all the injuries they had last year, him coming back from an injury at the end of the year. But now with the quarterback situation, Darnold and McCarthy, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. And then of course Barkley goes at the 1-2 turn to the Eagles. What are your thoughts on the Eagles this season as far as how he fits in there? Because they've always been like that. They've kind of been more of a committee team, but obviously Saquon's different than any back they've had before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps their offense, overall, just kind of another explosive weapon on offense. They, at the running back position, you had DeAndre Swift, but I think that Barkley kind of adding another element, with his power compared to Swift, and even some of the other back. I would exclude Gainwell. I think Gainwell is a little bit more of a powerful back. I think you could maybe see that go away from the tush push a little bit. Maybe Barkley starts running some of the tush push so that they're not, exposing their franchise quarterback to more of that, more of that abuse.
And part of why they've been so successful, because other teams tried the tush push and aren't even close to as efficient. Like the Eagles basically always got it, but now they lost Jason Kelsey, the All-Pro center who retired. So maybe less efficient with it. And, how often do you want to put Hurts in that position as, he's your franchise quarterback you've invested a lot of money in. Do you want to, how many of those hits do you want to give him, especially if they're not getting the same push and he's kind of just a sitting duck? So yeah, it'll be, that'll be one of the interesting storylines for the season on like the Eagles. Does having Saquon plus losing Kelsey, does that alter the way they approach things?
Time will tell, my friend. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see if we see less tush push.
Yeah. So I'm coming up here. Let me go ahead and take Drake London. Fell a little further than he usually does. Hopefully I'll get one of the 49ers receivers on the backside here. So what are the guy I wanted to talk about from this area of the draft went a couple picks before me, Kyren Williams. He had such an incredible season last year, but they used a 3rd-round pick on Blake Corum in the NFL draft, who has shown he can handle quite a workload, very talented back out of Michigan. And now Williams missed some time. It sounds like he's got another foot or ankle injury, which he's dealt with like 3 foot or ankle injuries in the last 3 seasons. So, he is one who seems to be falling in most drafts. He was drafted earlier than I've seen him recently here at the 8th pick of the 2nd round. But I've seen him falling into like that mid 3rd round.
3rd round, yeah.
Yeah.
I did a draft today where I think he went like 3.6 or 3.7, middle of the 3rd round. So yeah. It's interesting. I think just overall, you're not seeing like the NFL landscape at running back is kind of, I don't want to say has changed, but you're not really seeing as many workhorse running backs. Like honestly, I think you can count on one hand guys that you could consider a workhorse running back. And I think behind CMC, like when he was healthy, Kyren Williams was probably the number 2 or number 3 guy in terms of just expected workload. So it'd be interesting to see where that kind of goes coming off of his injuries, having that draft capital of Corum in the 3rd round. Like to me, he's not a guy that I'm certainly not in the 2nd round, but when he falls, I have some interest in him, but yeah, I mean, I don't know that I expect the same workload. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like part of the concern with him is like his slider build and the ankle and foot injuries. I think he's being drafted in a spot banking on that because before the draft he was like around Gibbs at like the 1-2 turn usually, like at the pre-draft the contest before like Bestball Mania 4 and DraftKings Millie Maker came out. So he's dropped like some obviously, but he's still, in my opinion, a big part of why he was so good. I mean, he was efficient, but also he had a huge workload. So I think even if he is healthy, Corum's going to bite into that a decent amount. And I don't know that he can stay healthy with that huge workload. So, it's kind of the uncertainty in the backfield makes Puka and Kupp a little bit more appealing even.
Yeah. An interesting injury to kind of chat about since last week, just went for
Pittman,
2nd slot. Yeah. Pittman. I remember 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were doing drafts, you'd see him go late 2nd, early 3rd. He's fallen almost a full round just based on that injury, being so early in the preseason. Interesting to just kind of see him the rise and fall of just these early preseason injuries.
Yeah, it is. So like that's the thing is the Pittman injury is kind of funny to me because it seems like he's fine. They said he just bumped his knee, and I mean it makes sense. Like why would you put him at risk? Or he's been around long enough. Like it's not like the reps are markedly changing the type of player he's going to be when the season starts. So like him dropping, I mean, you think about the pounding these guys take on a weekly basis in season, and guys come back and play. I mean, he's got 3.5 months until the bullets are flying for the regular NFL season. So it's that these are kind of buying opportunities I see when like
Same.
Pittman's situation. Williams, where it's like it's an issue that a type of injury that he has had issues with for a while now, popping up again, kind of raises more red flags. And I think that mid to late third, where he's been going in a lot of drafts, makes a lot more sense. I'm back up. I'm going to take Tank Dell because I don't see him fall to the 5th very often. So T. Higgins just went. Do you have any thoughts or concerns on Higgins for this season? With the he's franchise tagged, but he's missing OTAs. Kind of a big piece of news information right now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think last week we talked about Jermaine Burton, obviously later in drafts, but be kind of curious to see, no Taj Boyd there anymore. Still, I think on most teams, a lot of folks would consider T. Higgins to be a wide receiver 1 in terms of caliber. So, be curious to kind of see what happens. Burrow coming back last season from injury, you got to see him kind of strengthen as the season went on. So, I think it could be a good season for Higgins, and I do like the value. Basically, almost getting him at the 4 or 5 turn over there. I think that I like that pick there.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, Joe Burrow went. This is the earliest I've ever
seen him go.
4th pick of the 5th round. I guess a guy has Chase and didn't want to take any chances on not getting Burrow. So interesting there. But if we look at, and this is on DraftKings again, Burrow's average draft position is 73. So that's like usually the start of the 7th round. So, but it has risen a little bit recently. It was like towards the end of the 7th round. Some positive reports coming out that he's making good throws and looking good. So, that'll be, that situation will be one to monitor with obviously his, you look at like Jamar Chase last year, his value so closely tied to is Burrow like at full strength. I think Jake Browning came in and did a good job for the Bengals last season, but he doesn't provide that weekly or long-term kind of upside for the offense, I don't think.
Yeah, no, certainly not in terms of ceiling. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind, I don't mind pairing Burrow with Chase. And to me, this is a little bit early, full round early, but not our team.
So Keon Coleman just went with the 3rd pick of a 6th round. Another, I guess, thing to talk about. He's been rising quite a bit. Being drafted in the early to mid 60s. A couple positive reports, is usually the case. You have to think about the, these teams when they draft these players high, and then you have these OTAs where guys are in shorts and stuff. The reporters are. A lot of the beat reporters and stuff are incentivized.
They got to pump the tires
indirectly to pump up like these picks that these guys made. So sometimes you can be oversold, especially on these young guys. They took a lot of heat for passing on Xavier Worthy and giving his speed to the Chiefs. So it's an interesting situation because they're going to have extra reason to try to justify, their decision there.
Yeah, I feel like you get certainly this early in the offseason after the draft, you get a lot of puff pieces on higher draft picks.
Take Evan Ingram here.
coming back with a running back here on the turn on your next pick, probably? Or are you leaning a different direction?
Let's see here. I'm not that much higher on the running backs in this range than I am on some of the other running backs. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to reach a little bit so we can talk about him. Christian Watson, for the Packers, obviously we saw his rookie season. He had these monster games. He had a couple weeks last season, kind of towards the middle of the year, middle to late, after the halfway point of the season. I know he had the big Thanksgiving game. A few OWS subscribers had him and had some big hits. But he's a guy you talk about weekly upside in Bestball. And I mean, he's got just this massive upside. And it sounds like they might have his hamstring problems kind of figured out the root of the issue. So, it's always, he was being drafted at like the 3-4 turn last year. And now it sounds like his health is in a little bit better spot. And Jordan Love's not like the question mark he was coming into last year. So getting a little discount there is good. And that's one of those things where, and that's what this show is about, is like talking about the recent news and stuff. And I think, hearing those things specifically about how they're reacting to what the issues previously have been, I find somewhat actionable.
It's interesting. We were talking, and I don't want to jump away from Christian Watson. I mean, yeah, I echo your sentiments. I think you could say that for most of the Packers wide receivers between Wicks and Dobbs and Watson. I think they all offer kind of high ceiling weeks potentially for Bestball. But just because we're talking kind of recent news, like it's interesting to me, we just saw last wide receiver off the board, Bears rookie Rome. It's interesting to me, like he hasn't practiced in a couple weeks, like dealing with his hamstring tightness, and like the news this week was that he's kind of expected back at practice next week. I haven't seen his draft rise or fall at all. He's seen pretty consistent. To me, I don't just want to harken back to Pittman again. Not that I'm super high on Pittman, but he falls a full round and a half with a minor injury, kind of dealing with the same thing here. And literally, I don't think his ADP has moved in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, that is one of those things that is always curious to see how some injuries, how some situations that are the same have very different reactions from the field and the draft community, where, Pittman, knocks his knees and he with somebody and, they're like, all right, take a break. And so he drops, over a full round basically. And then you've got Rome, who hasn't practiced in 2 weeks and nobody blinks an eye. So yeah, that's a good shout. Good point. Just to kind of keep things in perspective. Yeah, it's curious for sure.
We can get back to talking about your Packers,
my Packers.
You're in Wisconsin. I assume you're a Packer fan.
I'm indifferent.
Okay.
I'm a fan of my DFS teams and Bestball teams. I don't really.
My wife knows the same thing. The guys I cheer for change from week to week.
Right. Yeah. So here we go. Up in a couple picks here. Quarterbacks have been flying off the board.
Off the boards.
Oops. accidentally clicked off there. Here we go. All right, we'll take Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. It's my first running back. The Steelers are a team that the thing I've been hearing out of Pittsburgh is just how much which is funny considering all the discourse like the fantasy community has around him. Everybody loves Arthur Smith. So it's kind of just funny to think about the way everybody else reacts. Or the fantasy community, our kind of outlook on him. So that's interesting. And then I'm going to take Rashee Rice, which the 7th receiver. Receivers are just keep falling in this draft, so I'm going to keep taking them, I guess. That'll probably do it for this lineup, 7 of them.
In your first.
But yeah, let's talk, I guess, first about Pittsburgh, and then we'll get into Rice. So what are your thoughts on the Steelers for this season? Well, first, who do you have? Who do you think ends up starting more games, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
I think in a vacuum, I'm gonna say Justin Fields. I don't know. I think he offers a dynamic part of the offense that Russell Wilson just doesn't. That Pickett really didn't as much. I mean, he had a little bit more mobility with his legs. I mean, Russell Wilson did 10 years ago. I know you know that as an ex-Badger. To me, I think, and I know we're just kind of keeping it light. To me, I think a lot of that just depends on, if you're drafting, what that looks like for your roster. If I'm considering one of those 2 QBs, it's honestly it's more roster specific. But just kind of keeping it light. In terms of the offense, I really like Jaylen Warren. I mean, I know we saw them use Najee Harris quite a bit. He's obviously not going away. But yeah, I mean, I like here kind of right around the 8-9 turn grabbing Warren. I like what you did there. What about yourself? Where do you see that QB battle for Pittsburgh? How do you see that shaking out?
Yeah, it feels like Wilson's going to get the first crack at it.
Agreed.
And when you look at what he was most recently in Denver, especially, lot of targets to the middle of the field, to a lot of checkdowns, short area targets. So would think the running backs are going to see a good deal of usage there, which that kind of raises the floor a little bit. So really, looking at both running backs, if Wilson's on the field, I think they'll both see a lot of targets, and that raises their, what they can do there. With Fields, they might not see as many targets, but we know that the threat of those dynamic rushing quarterbacks can really open some running lanes for the running backs. So kind of opens them up a little bit that way too. So I think that in that regard, they're kind of insulated from I think the running backs, whichever way the quarterback situation goes, can be very effective and have good seasons. It will be interesting to me, though, for the other positions. And then the other thing with this backfield is both Warren. So the Steelers declined Najee Harris's 5th-year option. So he's set to be a free agent after this season. Jaylen Warren also, he'll be a restricted free agent, so they'll have some control over him. So how they use them will be interesting. I keep thinking about the Raiders a couple of years ago.
Just running the tires off Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, exactly. So it's do they in some regard, do they do that something similar with Najee, anticipating that they're going to invest a little more long-term in Warren, at least early in the season? That'll be kind of something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I see you're on deck here. Another interesting thing, just kind of sticking on Pittsburgh while you decide to make your picks here. Russell Wilson's going to be 36 during the season, and we've kind of seen his potential decline over the last couple seasons. Obviously, I agree with you. I think he's going to get kind of the first run of it, kind of out the gate. But I think if you go through half the season, 8-9 games, and the Steelers are 3-6, I wouldn't be surprised to see them move to Justin Fields for the second half. Guy just turned 25. I think people forget how young he still is.
Right.
And, obviously, they're not super invested in Justin Fields, but, you've got a young mobile quarterback who has shown some proficiency at the NFL level. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't give him, half the season. Certainly if they get off to a slow start. If they start the season, whatever, 2-6, 3-6, something, they really struggle out the gates. They may not even give Russell Wilson 9 games if they start out. That's just my take on it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fields get more run overall. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see as well if Fields getting him away from Chicago, seeing how I hope he gets a chance, I guess is what I'm saying. I hope we get to see, was it the environment more than anything, or, what's this, is there a chance? Because he's such an exciting player, right? So just that'll be something definitely to watch. And then so I just took Brian Robinson and Dalton Schultz. Nothing special there that I wanted to talk about, but I did want to talk about the Rashee Rice situation, because in the last week, so he's had 2 incidents this offseason. He had the high-speed car crash where he was going like over 100 miles an hour, crashed, caused 6 cars to crash. And that's kind of the serious one. And then there was reports he had assaulted a photographer, someone at a nightclub. Apparently from the second incident, there's no charges being filed. The other guy said basically it was a misunderstanding, nothing to see here. So from that perspective, seeing Rice dropping to, he got him in the 9th round here. I think his ADP is slightly higher than that. What do we got?
Mid-80s, I think.
86, yeah. So early 8th round. So he fell about a round past that in this draft, but still like an 8th or 9th round pick for, Patrick Mahomes is in most people's book the top quarterback in the NFL, and he was clearly the number 1 wide receiver. And Travis Kelce is going to be 35. So, just again, the assumptions we have at this point in the season. I remember a couple of years ago, everybody was terrified about the Alvin Kamara situation because he got in that fight in Las Vegas during the Pro Bowl. And then legal stuff got pushed past the season. He didn't miss any games.
Yeah, I think, I know on previous Wake and Snakes, we've kind of talked about the potential importance of just kind of getting the wide receivers for the Chiefs kind of right. And there's just so much unknowns at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I love grabbing Rice there in the 9th round. I think the risk is low. And, I mean, this early, we're still in May. We really have no idea how it's going to play out. So, yeah, I mean, I love that pick. And you've got, you certainly don't need too many more wide receivers on this team, Mike. You got a lot already. You fired off, I think, 7 out of the first 9.
Yeah. Speaking of receivers, Adonai Mitchell for the Colts, we talked about Pittman earlier, and this drafter actually was able to he got Richardson with Pittman, and then has Mitchell as well. But that's always something that, to me, like, if people who were high on Pittman and he's being drafted in the early 3rd prior to this like injury scare, how if you're that scared off of him, how do you not how do you not bump up AD Mitchell? How does he still drop to the 12th round here? And I believe Josh Downs is still on the board.
He is.
Those are always, the things that the field psychology, the way those things play out is always curious to me to watch.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I not our team, but I kind of like. I can't really read it here. Canacones, willing to be a little bit nimble there, and had Pittman fall, and so
Mm-hmm.
he may not have been so high on. I'm sorry, were you on the clock there?
Can stay.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting names you get on here.
Interesting name.
I'll take Charbonnet.
Where'd you go with your last two picks?
So last time around, I took Brian Robinson, Dalton Schultz.
Okay, yeah, nice. Okay.
And then now I've got Charbonnet as my RB3.
Still need a quarterback on this squad.
Yeah.
I don't know that you got to reach for one of these. You could if you want.
I'm
not trying to.
I'm going to take another running back. I'm going to take Kendre Miller here. So 4 running backs now: Warren, Robinson, Charbonnet, and Miller. All these guys they're not like the solo guy, right? Warren has Najee, Robinson's dealing with Eckler, Charbonnet's dealing with Walker, and Kendre's dealing with Kamara. But you also have, Najee, we know, is on the last year of his deal in Pittsburgh. Eckler and Kamara are getting up there in age, going to be 29 and 30 this season. And then Charbonnet, was the second-round pick just a year ago, and we often see those second-year running backs really kind of take off. So,
and Kenneth Walker very inefficient. So yeah, I don't mind that pick at all.
Yeah, so we'll throw them together and see how it goes. Josh Palmer just went in the 13th round. We had Quentin Johnston last round as well. So they drafted a receiver with the 34th pick, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, I believe.
Yeah, go Dogs.
And he's going in the 7th round. And then they also signed DJ Chark in free agency. So, have you been, what are your thoughts on the Chargers receiving core? Are there any of those guys that at their respective prices that you prefer over the others?
So personally, just as a guy who's watched a lot of UGA football, I like Ladd McConkey. I don't know that I love him at his draft spot in the 7th round. That's generally where he's been going. I think we've seen Josh Palmer do it the last couple of years, have strong games. I wanted to say usable weeks, but have strong games. With Mike Williams being out, we've seen him do it before. So I think, just direct answer of your question, I think based on just draft positions, I'd rather have Josh Palmer. I know we generally see wide receivers in year 2 kind of have a lot of breakout, just historically. I don't know that Quentin Johnson does it for me. I think I'd rather, 1 round later, I think I'd rather roll with Palmer. I wish you could get Ladd McConkey in the 11th or 12th round. I'd be all over that, but that's not the reality. Yeah, maybe later in the season, Mike, we'll be talking risers and fallers on this show, and McConkey will, strain a hamstring and he'll fall 4 rounds. Who knows? Yeah, it'll be so. Yeah, and we'll see how that plays out as far as the, I think Quentin Johnston's kind of the X factor there, right? Like, because we talked about it before, like, we have a different regime now in Los Angeles, and Johnston was, the previous regime's guy, and he did not look good. So they don't have that like allegiance to try to kind of force that 1st round pick, make sure he has opportunities to
succeed so they don't look bad, because it's already new guys. So I think he's kind of like, if his physical tools are able to translate into being productive, then I think all three of those guys are going to struggle to put up numbers, just because, we're kind of expecting them to be so run heavy. What we got here? All right. Let's take Antonio Gibson. Add that fifth running back, kind of the same thing. Just throwing darts basically at the position, guys who, we're going to see on the field. He'll play, but he's dealing with Ramondre, but Ramondre's he's getting a little bit up there, at least for a running back. I say this about like 26-year-old guys, but he's getting up there a hair. I'm going to go ahead and take McCarthy. I love this rookie quarterback class, as you're aware. Had to get a quarterback at some point.
You can take zeros. You don't have to draft a quarterback. You can just take zeros every week.
Just be so strong at the other 7 positions. So Wan'Dale Robinson, he went right before my pick. Giants receiving core, they were hard to figure out last year too. This year, Malik Neighbors, I think, clearly going to be the alpha, the main guy. But then after that, they've got Robinson, who's been productive as like a slot receiver. They've got Jalen Hyatt, second year, deep threat, very explosive type of player. But Darius Slayton is a veteran who's been productive. And, it sounds like either Slayton or Hyatt is going to be on the field. And then they still have Isaiah Hodgins, who is like a Dable favorite going back to his days with Buffalo. And he's had some good stretches for him too. So, do you have any thoughts on the Giants receiving core, or do you just, outside of Neighbors, are you not really interested?
So interesting. I think talking risers and fallers, do me a solid scroll up. Where did Neighbors go in this draft? Because I've seen him slide quite a bit over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he went 3.9. And I actually just yesterday I got him in the early 4th.
I took him in the 4th round this morning in a draft.
Okay.
And he was going late 2nd, early 3rd for a while. So I mean, he's kind of fallen a full round. I think Giants are an offense that I'm not super stoked about, but I think he is likely to be the main guy, just draft capital, and it's not, the other guys around him are not super exciting. So I mean, I think if you can get him in the 4th round, I do like that. I think out of the other guys that you mentioned, I love grabbing Hyatt in like the 19th, 20th round as a guy that I think will be on the field as kind of their wide receiver too. I think Wan'Dale will be in the slot basically all of his snaps. So to me, I like the potential upside of a guy like Hyatt. But, if you prefer Slayton, you can grab Slayton in the 19th or 20th round too. Same with Hodgins. He's not even getting drafted in most of the ones that I've done. So I think there's definitely some potential upside there for spike weeks. I think if you go back and look at last year, the Giants wide receivers did produce some strong weeks. It's just not a lot of consistency or even consistency on who it is. So yeah, I don't mind taking a shot on a Giant late in the draft. What about yourself? Where do you like there? I know you're up on the clock and a couple picks here.
Yeah, I kind of lean with you. Hyatt's someone I was high on him last season, just because there wasn't much talent there, and kind of just like a blind bet on like he was a highly productive guy. I think he had like a 4-touchdown game against Alabama at one point. So he was a guy that I was just high on. Like, I think he's got some talent. He's young and there's not much kind of in his way. didn't really pan out, but I think Neighbors actually helps Hyatt just fit into kind of the role of what he actually is, which is not like an alpha top receiving option. He's not going to excel there, but when you have somebody else kind of drawing that attention, and he can just have some spike weeks here and there, I think that's probably a better fit. I'm going to take Drake May here too.
I know you love this rookie QB class, so I'm not surprised to see that.
Yeah, get the quarterback and receiving running back pairing there with May and Gibson. Ooh, let's see here. And here's one. Take Rashawn Johnson as my 6th running back. So both May and Rashawn. So out of New England camp this week, the word was that Drake May is, I think he's like, he's in a competition with Jacoby Brissett to be the starting quarterback.
No chance.
So yeah, it's one of those again. That's the classic. Like even though Belichick's gone, like it's kind of a former player of his, Gerard Mayo is their head coach now. They're not going to hand it to the rookie sort of deal. But a lot of positive buzz from people around New England just about how he conducts himself, his preparation, his personality, how he's with his teammates, which I think that might be kind of the stuff that you can learn a little bit more at this point in the off season from than like everybody wants to see like, oh, cool highlight catch when guys are in shorts, but that doesn't really, that doesn't always translate.
Yeah, surprise. I know it's not a big difference. I'm surprised to see Bo Nix go this early. I know there's been a run on.
Welcome to DraftKings.
Huh?
Welcome to DraftKings. Some weird stuff happens. I don't know if you saw the start of this draft, but the guy at the 1-2 turn took Barkley and Derrick Henry.
And Josh Jacobs. Nothing wrong with starting 3
Josh Jacobs on the 3rd, and then Stroud in the 4th without any of
his pass catchers. Okay.
Yeah. So
all right. Well, thank you for the $3.
You see lots of fun stuff on DraftKings. Goff went in the 8th round. Yeah, it's a different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then in the 17th, so I took Rashawn Johnson there.
Mm-hmm.
Some curious comments coming from Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. I don't know if you saw him at all, but basically saying that their running back situation will be like kind of a hot hand type thing. So considering he's a second year running back, pretty talented coming out of Texas. He was behind Bijan Robinson. So his statistics in college aren't necessarily indicative of the talent level that he had coming out, but him being a 17th round pick, Swift went in the 6th round here, usually goes in like the 7th.
Has Herbert been drafted on that team yet?
He has not been drafted. He went in the 15th round.
15. Okay. Yeah. So
15-11. So just, curious, like that 10-round discrepancy shows a lot more confidence in the pecking order for the Bears running backs than what like their head coach is showing. Now, full disclosure, Eberflus is a defensive guy, so he's not actually the guy. But there's a little smoke there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think, I know on previous streams we've talked about Chicago's offense and definitely expect them to take a step forward this season. Lot of new weapons on the offensive side. So, I mean, I think there's definitely some weeks that we'll see some good games out of Chicago running backs. A lot of uncertainty this early in the season on who that's going to be, but yeah, definitely don't mind grabbing one of those 3. Rashawn being you know, 17th round, definitely worth the risk, I think, at that point.
Right.
So where do you stand here? You got 7 wide receivers, 6 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. Nice.
Yeah. Trying to decide what I want to do with this next one. So I think I know what I'm going to do.
Is this a roster you feel like you want a third quarterback? Not necessarily this pick, but is this?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking I might take Minshew. So the guy picking between me, he's got Kyler and Purdy.
There you go.
He's
Assuming
got
people are going to be
so he might take Minshew if I don't. So I'm going to take Minshew first as my third quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of where I was trying to lead you. If I was drafting, I think I would have done that too.
Mm-hmm. And then if I can, I might just take Mayer as a third tight end. Just solidify that position there. Get a little back stack Vegas guys.
Like that.
Yeah, that's another one where that whole, Michael Mayer was a guy that I was pretty high on going into his second year, and then they draft Brock Bowers. So,
another UGA guy,
Yeah. Well, they're just churning them out, and then, their defensive guys pretty much all go to either Philly or Green Bay. It seems like. It was either him or Javon Baker. So the Patriots wide receiver situation is a crowded one with no. It's hard to say where that's going to go. So you've got Kendrick Bourne was the top Patriots receiver last year, but he tore his ACL. Juju is still around. Obviously, he is not the player, or hasn't been recently the player that we've been used to seeing. Demario Douglas goes in the 17th round. He had some flashes last season, a little bit smaller receiver. And then you get the rookies, Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. Polk from Washington kind of was overshadowed by Rome Odunze in Washington. But he was, they took him with the 37th overall pick. So, just the Patriots have such a bad history of drafting receivers. So usually I think if a receiver was drafted with the 37th overall pick, we talked about the Chargers before. Lad McConkey picked 3 picks before Polk. He's going 7 rounds earlier, and arguably enters a better receiving room. I think Josh Palmer has probably done more recently, and Quentin Johnston recently, a first-round pick, than any of those Patriots receivers currently on the roster.
Yeah, don't disagree with you there at all.
Drew Lock just went in the 19th round. That's a first. Josh Dobbs. Slayton went in the 19th. We talked about him a little bit.
Any New York Giants wide receivers still available?
Yeah, I think Hyatt's still there.
Where are you in terms of your allocations? You got one more pick to go.
Yeah, I'm probably going to take Osborne at receiver. I forgot to mention him. Yeah, he's the 6th guy in New England, KJ Osborne, who I believe he signed a $5 million deal 1 year, $5 or $6 million with the Patriots. And he was pretty good in Minnesota.
He definitely had some weeks.
Yeah. So again, who knows how this all plays out. I think I'm going to take another running back. What's a good running back we can end on talking about? Evan Hull.
If he's there, I'd love for you to take Evan Hull, but I don't know that I see him falling that far. But he might. Braylon Allen is interesting as well. I think that if you're using a first round pick on why am I drawing a blank?
Breece Hall.
To me, it seems like, again, I know we're keeping these light. To me, that if you can grab Braylon in the 20th round, I don't know why you don't. If you've invested that first round, draft capital into Breece Hall, I don't know why you don't go grab Braylon. But we'll see. I think that's an interesting guy for us to potentially grab with our last pick if he's available.
Mm-hmm. Jelani Woods just went. He's a guy I was pretty high on last season, and then he missed the whole season. I say high on. I took him a lot in like the 18th, 19th round, but missed the whole season with a hamstring injury. Sounds like he's back to full health. It says he participated in all the OTA sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one to watch, paired with potentially a very, very good Indianapolis offense this offseason or this coming season.
Yeah.
And then Tucker Kraft went a little bit earlier in the round. He was spotted. I think he had a sling. He has a pec issue, so he'll be sidelined until at least the start of training camp. So that situation kind of opens up, for Luke Musgrave. Yeah. Definitely something to keep an eye on over the next few weeks. It's just reports out of Green Bay and how that all goes down. So I'm just about up. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take Allen, the hometown kid. Have I told you this before?
You have not.
He went to high school, the same conference that I coach basketball in. He went to Fond du Lac High School. So he's my wife actually teaches in that school district. So, he was pretty crazy to watch in high school. But
are you able to pull up the draft board before you leave?
Yeah.
Curious your thoughts on the fourth spot there. That took Hudson and Gesicki the last couple rounds. How many tight ends did he end up with?
4. One of them's Robert Tonyan, who signed with the Vikings actually just a couple weeks ago.
Okay, I didn't see that. Interesting. Okay.
So he's got those 2, and then he's got Tonyan, and he's got Cade Otton.
Okay.
Another little connection I have is I am somewhat close to someone who is has a relative in the Iowa football program, and 4th round tight end Eric All for the Bengals was previously at Michigan, transferred to Iowa, only played like 3 games last year, but we know about Iowa tight ends, and he said like everyone around the program is like raves about like his physical abilities. So Eric All, someone to keep an eye on for your 20th round picks on tight end starved teams, or even like a team like this where I have Ingram and Schultz. If I hadn't taken Mayer where I did, All would kind of make sense as just like a dart throw third guy.
Sure. That's a crowded tight end room there in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is where he is?
Yeah. So, but at the
Hudson showed some stuff at the end of the season last year, and then they go out and sign Mike Gesicki, and
then I think they still have Drew Sample there.
They still have Drew Sample, and they draft All in the 4th round.
It's one of those things though too, where like you see it every year after the season. You're like, wow, like why weren't we on him? And it's like, well, a lot of these guys are like, it's crowded, but at the same time, like if one of them ends up being really good, like it wouldn't take much, I guess, for one guy to separate. Like, it's not like there's a lot of names that maybe we're familiar with, but like nobody, it's not like a situation where like Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, where like it's going to be hard for either one of them to just like become this like huge workload guy because the other guy's just like, he's too good to just be forgotten about. Yeah. So that is pretty much going to do it for today. I think we hit on a lot of the situations that have been kind of popping up, risers, fallers, different news that's come out, which is the intent of the show. Thank you for joining me, Billy.
Hey, man, great to do it with you during the hours of the sunshine. I think this is one of our first where the sun is up.
Yeah. Usually it's like at the midnight hour, Sunday night. But yeah, so we will be, I had a new storyboard just dropped. We've got Majestic put together our playoff correlation maps, really cool tool that'll be up on the site this week. So he shared that with us a couple days ago, and our devs are just working on getting it up on the scroll. So definitely subscribers, you want to check that out. Some really cool content he's put together. And yeah, we've got 3 more training sessions coming up the next 3 days. Hilo's daughter, we didn't have our industry experts pod on Friday. His daughter was in the hospital. So it sounds like things are good there though. So we should be back on schedule this week and ready to go full speed into summer.
Sounds great, my friend. Look forward to catching up with you next week.
All right, for sure. We'll talk soon.